first thing I wanted to go over was just shoulder blade placement, retraction versus like protraction and depression and all that stuff. So basically when you're getting set for your bench press, you don't want to be protracted in this top position because then you won't be stable. You'll be kind of rocking back and forth on this bench. So basically what you want to do is you want to shorten your range of motion as much as possible. That way everything is super powerful, you're super strong, okay? So you're gonna pull your shoulder blades back first, okay? That's step one. You're gonna feel a contraction in your upper back, traps, that sort of thing, rear delts, all that fun stuff. Then once you pull back and get set here, you actually wanna drive those shoulder blades down, right? So it's not a big difference between the two, but it's a retraction into depression, okay? So that'll engage the lats, keep you super, super tight in your back so that you're super stable during your bench press, okay? That's step one. Now I said the retraction was step one, but technically I kind of boofed that a little bit. It's really gonna be step one is your hand placement. Hand placement's gonna vary a lot depending on if you're just doing a regular bench press, if you're doing like a competition bench press, close grip, whatever. It's always going to vary. But typically I like to tell people you want to get into that retracted position with your shoulders after you get your hands set in a position to where the bottom of your bar path is going to be at a 45 in your armpit. So as you come down through, you're finishing right at this 45-degree angle in here rather than say a 90-degree angle in your armpit, right? It's all based on your shoulder, your clavicles, how far apart everything is. So like if you're in that 45 to 55 degree-ish range in here, you can pretty much be assured that you're hitting a lot of chest as you come down through. Obviously there's some nuance between grip widths, so it depends on what your goals are and what you want to achieve. But for just a bench press, regular old bench press, you want to be right in that middle position because you're able to get a really good chest contraction through that 45 angle. You're also able to get a lot of tricep, you're able to get a lot of shoulders as well. If you're starting to come down into like a close grip position, right here, it's gonna be a lot of triceps, a lot of shoulders, not as much of the chest, okay? If you're going into like a super, super wide, like a guillotine press almost, that's gonna be almost all chest, barely any shoulders. There will be some triceps on the lockout, obviously, but it's gonna get a much bigger stretch through the chest. You won't be as powerful in that position. So if your goal is power on a bench press, you wanna get big numbers, then you wanna be in that 45 position, okay? Now you might see some people go super, super wide and do that like competition lift. In my opinion, most people don't need to do that. It's gonna jack up your shoulders, gonna jack up your wrists probably, okay? Most people are good to go just sticking with that 45 position. You'll get really strong, get a big chest, you'll feel good. I wanted to give y'all a little bit of a better angle on this so you could see like my grip placement, so you can get like a kind of an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that 45-degree angle. Basically, for me, I like to go thumbs out from the end of the knurling, and then I'll grab right there. I'll get locked in with my shoulders doing that retraction. After I get my hands set, I'm grabbing tight. That way I know I'm even on that bar. Everything's set, everything's good to go, okay? Now, when I use that thumb to get me into position, I am basically set in place at that 45-degree angle at the bottom of my bench press. So if I unrack right now, I get set, I'm still retracted in my shoulders, everything's tight back there, and then as I drop down through, see how my elbow goes into that 45 position. I accidentally hit the tripod, but whatever, it'll be all right. But you're in that 45, you're super tight in your upper back, and then from here you can actually just press straight back up through, and you're good to go, okay? But using that hand placement
staying tight, that's gonna give you the majority of what you need for a bench press. Then it just gets into the nitty gritty. That's when you get into some leg drive, if you wanna get an arch in or not, but we'll go over that in just a second.
Alrighty, one caveat as far as the hand placement goes. I have super freaking long arms, so you might not want to do the thumb out thing. Depends on your body structure, what works for you. Just play around with your grip until you find that 45 position, the grip placement that allows you to get to that 45 position, right? But other than that, now we're going to get over some like leg drive and why we arch in a bench press, or why people arch in a bench press if you want to arch or if you don't want to arch. The reasons why you would and why you wouldn't. So typically when you are bench pressing, the whole reason as to why you would arch is so that you are able to get better leg drive through a bench press. Now most people look at a bench press and they think, oh, it's all chest. That is not the case. It is a full body movement. It is a compound lift, okay? So once you come down here, normal people who have not had any like powerlifting training or anything like that, they'll just lay back on the bench, they'll grab on, and they'll start doing their reps, okay? But somebody who has done powerlifting or weightlifting of some sort typically realizes that you can get a lot more stability for your bench press by using your legs, okay? So how I like to do things, I get set up top, everything's good to go. Up here, I use my thumbs, right? I find that top position, I retract my shoulder blades, and then from here, I'm actually going to take my feet and push them back as far as I possibly can. And then from here, I'm gonna take my hips and push my hips back as far as I possibly can. Now, as you can see, this creates an arch in my back, okay? This is not something that has to be there, but it allows me to get that arch, and when I get that arch, it allows me to push through my legs back into this bench press, okay? So if I'm not arched and I'm pushing this way with my feet, I push and my body moves back, okay? But if I come, I get set, everything's all good, I get my feet placed back, I have that arch in my body. Now, when I push my feet forward, almost like a leg extension, my body kind of rolls back into it, and my upper back is able to press down into the bench because of that arch. So my legs are pushing this way, and my body is pushing back down into it because I have that arch. So that arch allows me to just create more stability when I'm in my bench press position, okay? So I get set, everything's all good. I create that arch. I'm super, super tight in my legs. This is not a comfortable position, okay? That's something you guys need to get through your head, is when you're bench pressing, it's not supposed to be comfy if you're looking for heavy numbers, okay? So get super freaking tight, dummy tight, drive super hard through those legs, pushing your body down into it, and you're gonna be so stable on your bench press that you're gonna hit 1,000,000 PRs, okay? That's probably a fabrication. You're not gonna hit 1,000,000, but you know, you're gonna get a PR probably. So the last thing I wanna go over is gonna be bar path for a bench press. Is one of the more important aspects of bench. A lot of people think you unrack and you just press, it goes up and down, then you rack it, right? Technically, if you want optimal like muscle recruitment, you're not gonna be pressing straight up and down, okay? Because your shoulder is a ball and socket, right? So think of it like like it has to move in a circle, okay? If I move my arm, it's moving in a circle, okay? So for a bench press, when I'm dropping down here and I'm pressing back up through to the top, if I was going straight up and down, I'd be pressing out here, okay? I don't wanna press out here. No way, I don't wanna press out here. I wanna press back up through, okay? Because that's gonna keep that bar closer to my working joint, which is my shoulder and my chest, right? That's all the shoulder joint that's working, okay? The closer that bar is to that working joint, as I'm coming down and pressing through, the less tension I'm gonna have on that shoulder joint, okay? If I am
down here, I get locked in and I press out here. Guess what? That moment arm is a little bit longer. Moment arm is basically how far the weight is from the acting joint. And the longer that arm is, in this case, my actual arm, the longer that is, the more weight is being placed on your joint, all right? Because of torque, right? Little tiny movements can make huge differences in the amount of poundage your joints are actually handling, okay? So 1 inch of difference pressing here versus here, already there's a massive amount of difference between the loads, okay? Keeping it close just keeps it so that you're strong, you're steady, and you're able to stay within where that joint is strong. Since it is a ball and joint, or a ball and socket joint, it can't stay as powerful because the socket wants to move up as you're fully extended, okay? Because when you're pressing, you're typically coming down, stopping just below the nipple, at the nipple, somewhere in that area. I like to go to my sternum personally. Again, probably because I got super long arms. But you come down, you get set, you drop to that position, and as you press, you're gonna come back up through over your clavicle a bit more. So you're pressing here, and you're finishing your rep here, a little bit higher. Okay, so it's almost like you're pressing back at a diagonal, almost a bit more of a rounded diagonal because it is a ball and socket joint. You know, you don't want it to be straight up and down through, but basically you're pushing back into the bar or back into the bench is where you want to go. So for a 1 rep max, it would be like you get set, everything's good, you drop down through, and you press back into the rack almost, right? That's the basic premise of what you want to do. For reps, obviously you don't want to press straight back into the rack. You want to press into a position where you still have strength and stability, but it's still pressing backwards, okay? So it's not straight up and down, you're pressing back. That bar path really does matter, it makes a huge difference. So when I get set, I'm grabbing, I'm getting everything tight, everything looks good, I unrack, and then from here, I'm tucking my bows, right? Tucking my bows because my lats are already engaged, everything's tight, and then I drop down through, and as you can probably see, that wasn't a straight bar path, that was a little bit of a diagonal. From here, I'm gonna press back up over my clavicle, okay? So I'm over the top of my clavicle right now, I'm gonna drop back down in that diagonal position, down to my sternum, and I'm driving back into the rack, right? Because that's where we're gonna be strongest, okay? Again, talking about that moment arm, it's about how far that weight is from the working joint, torque, all that fun stuff. So just focus on not so much doing a straight up and down path, but driving back into that rack, all right? And that is basically how you bench press. I mean, pretty much, that's where it is. I don't think I missed anything, so we'll just call it there. I guess like, comment, subscribe. I don't know if it's gonna be on YouTube or Instagram or what, but yeah, bench press.